Good evening. Tonight, we're doing more solo challenge. So, we have a few things worth considering. So you might notice that the thumbnail and the stream itself is name dropping Sohr Khai. We are like 99%, if not 100%, going to be doing Sohr Khai. The only question is how much stuff we're doing before Sohr Khai. The reason why I used Sohr Khai is because I believe that that is less of a spoiler than putting the Aetherochemical Research Facility in there. In the thumbnail. I feel like that is a little much to put in the thumbnail, maybe. And it's totally not because I forgot that the research facility happens to be before Sohr Khai. That is totally not the reason. Nope. That is not it. Ching. Hey Kitsuneko, hey Kwasari, hey Imia, hey Chidano. Hope you're all doing well. So, the one thing that is a little bit up in the air is whether I should try to do Bismarck with Blue Mage before. I don't know if it can be done. I'm pretty sure it can't. Because there's the two serpents in the middle. But specifically because it's like maybe doable. That's kind of the reason why I'm thinking it might be done. Didn't we kill Thordan last week? Or 2 weeks ago? I'm pretty sure we did fight Thordan, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we did. Teach that old man another lesson. Kill him again. Ah yes, the perfect start to every solo challenge, going in and beating the ever-living daylights out of Thordan just because. Hey Matthew, hey James, I hope you're doing well. But yeah, exactly, the ads need to die extremely fast. Originally, when I went to look into whether it's even possible to like complete Final Fantasy XIV alone, even making use of duty support, the first encounter that like really puts it to the test is Bismarck, because to actually beat it at all with a normal job, I needed to do it unsynced. And even unsynced. So the way I went about it in that video when I made that research was that first I would try to do it in reasonably accessible gear at the point in the progression of the game. And incidentally, the most effective option there at Bismarck is level up to 70, unlock Reaper, use Reaper in Reaper's starter gear, because that is higher item level than what you would have reasonably on Bismarck. And that was able to do it while not dying to taking too much damage. But that is a lot of effort to beat it. Like, that was significantly more than anything before that. Like, Ravana you could beat in the equivalent of like Ironworks Magitech equipment. As long as you were unsynced. So Bismarck is such an underwhelming fight. I mean, it has a lot of waiting. It has a huge amount of waiting. Kasadi says, it's been a long time since I mentioned a drawing project I'm working on, but soon I think it's done. Well, nice. I hope you'll share it with us on the Discord when it is finished. Right. So I think we've talked enough about it. Maybe I should just try with Blue Mage. Do we have the Blue Mage spells we need? Can I convince someone standing here to switch to tank very briefly? Thank you. What spells do we not need? What spells would be completely pointless? I want to bring Missile just in case it works. I'm almost 100% confident this doesn't work. But I feel like we have the like action real estate to bring them to test. Because it would be hilarious if it did work on anything. Emir says maybe DPS because more damage. I mean, the point would be to try it synced. And if we're doing it synced, then you need the tank mode. Like, the thing is that, and this is something that people tend to forget when they're comparing the modes for Blue Mage, is damage gives you 20% more crit rate and 20% more direct hit. That translates to like crit chance is like 8%, maybe 10 or 12% more damage. The direct hit is like 5% more damage, so like you add it together, you get like maybe 20% more damage combined. The healer mode gives you 20% more healing done and makes some healing spells really good. Like, for example, if we went healer, we could replace rehydration with Palm Cure to have a way faster spammable heal. But the tank mode, I don't know if it's visible here. Oh yeah, did you see that? Not tank mode, 1391. Boom. 3,400. So like nearly triples, or at least multiplies our physical defense by 2.5. That matters a lot. Like, if you've ever seen people argue that you can't solo things with Blue Mage without being a healer, that's because they typically view the damage you're taking and going, you wouldn't be able to heal all this if you're not a healer. But if you're a tank, you'd just not take that amount of damage. So like that is the reasoning. I don't think the DPS mode will be powerful enough to help, given that we have to tank a lot of damage. So that is the reason. We also get 100% more damage from basic instincts when we get in. So maybe that helps. Does the wound down on adds apply to pre-applied dots? That is a good question. Speaking of a good question, something that I never bothered to test. I'm sure it's obvious what the answer is. Yeah, because that means that if you can like just put something like sneak a mortal flame on both of the adds before they stack up together, if that damage is not reduced, then they'll just slowly die from that. But the thing is that the Serpent intermission on Bismarck is actually a DPS check. I know, incredible, a normal encounter with an enrage. Actually, most fights with an intermission with some sort of way to do it wrong, like, you know, a fight where you need to spread the adds or stack the adds or whatever it is, they often have some sort of hard enrage cutoff point, so that you have to do it right for it to count. Right. Yeah, Ravana and his adds is a good example, but Ravana and his adds is actually a very clear check, because it's not really an enrage, it's more like it punishes you per mistake, because the butterflies will, if they manage to cast their special spell, they will kill you, like, eventually, and then when Ravana gets to the next phase, he will just spend all of those stacks the butterflies generated and then kill you. Edarit says, I learned about Bismarck's enrages during my mentor roulettes. Like, on normal Limitless Blue, did you mean extreme? we'll try. I won't spend too much time here, but I feel like it's worth trying to see if we can do it. Hey Green, hope you're doing well. This is a knockback, isn't it? Right. Oh, that one was too far away. Let me just test this so that we know. Fully resist. Okay. Are you also immune to the stun? Yep. Yeah, doing a lot of damage. And this also actually has some sort of enrage of its own, because the boss is just wailing on the island that we're on. Did it just spawn more ads? I think it did. Yeah. Nah. I don't think this is going to work. Oh, it should be noted that I didn't even get to use the harpoons because there were already more ads. I don't have the damage for this. I had to spend all my cooldowns dealing with the ads. How about some more ads? Right? How about we do it again? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ah. I don't think I can do this. Surprising that it wasn't the serpent bit, but yet not. The reason why I'm saying I don't think I can do this is mainly because we need to both kill the two ads relatively quickly, which means we won't have cooldowns for the thing, and that means we have to do that thing in 2 sets, and we don't have the cooldowns to beat the ads in 2 sets, at least not from what I can see. Farm Echo. Well, the thing is more that even if we did 50% more damage, I don't know if we could, but you know what, we can try it again. The thing is, James, we don't have the protective barrier yet, I don't think. Or I think we only get to use the protective barrier once, right? Or what? Do we get to use it every time? Apparently that wasn't fast enough because it still took full damage. Are you serious? It... Nah, man. Nah, I'm done. I don't want to do that. Nope. Did you see that? Just... Oh, what if there was an AoE on the Dragon Killer? Specifically on the Dragon Killer. It could have been anywhere and decided to be specifically exactly on the Dragon Killer. On an unrelated note, why are they not stacking? Are they both two different types of mobs this time? Or two identical types of mobs? Or what's going on? Is it because I'm attacking the wrong one? It's because I'm starting with the wrong one. Ah. Hey! We got to phase 2! No. That's not what I wanted. Let me just check something. It seems... It looks like the Mortal Flame is doing full damage through that, but I don't think that is actually enough. Also, I'm dead. I don't have enough MP to do anything. I don't know if it's by design. I feel like it's not always that they land exactly on it. Also, I didn't even get an additional stat increase for that. No. We don't have enough damage for the intermission. The Mortal Flame did like 800 damage per tick. And the time that I was alive, I think we survived like 30 seconds. It did like 5% of one of them's HP, so I would need to get them to like 30% or 20% before they get close together. No. I don't think I can do this. But I wanted to check. I think it was interesting that we discovered that the first phase on its own is insane. But I did go into this thinking we can't beat Bismarck. That's kind of why we skipped it last time. Was because I don't think it can be done. And hey, Yizu, hope you're doing well. But yeah, if the echo had increased another 10%, then maybe I would have given it another go. But it was still at 10. I wonder what it would take to get it to 20%. Right, so what we originally planned was Aetherochemical Research Facility, which is a very easy name to remember. Have you ever wanted to write this without having to look up the name first to make sure you wrote it right? So also for those curious why I'm like we're doing ARF and then Sohr Khai is because Aetherochemical Research Facility is part of the MSQ, Sohr Khai is part of the MSQ, Anti-Tower is part of the MSQ, but as far as I know, the final boss will crowd control you permanently if you're alone. Pretty sure. Because there's that intermission where it turns 2 of the players in the group into a doll, and I'm pretty sure it'll do that anyway. But if they don't, then it might be doable. But we're starting with a Aetherochemical Research Facility. It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Yeah, kind of. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh cards have like longer names. Like that would have been like ... and then there's more. But I don't know how you would solo Bismarck in an even fight. The 2 serpents are just too strong. Maybe if you were 2 players you could do it. But then it's not a solo. Right, so if research facility, I do believe a lot of people say that it's one of the hardest, or weirdly one of the hardest regular dungeons. We're going to be doing it synced, because as we've discovered previously, minimum item level after A Realm Reborn is just... it's way harder because of this massive item level difference. Yeah. Maybe the new melee or mage in 7.0 could do it. I mean, they would need to do so much damage that they can kill the mob, kill one of the serpents before it becomes an issue. Oh, we're going to need these. 20%. Have you seen Reaper on low level? I have, but you have to remember that Reaper is still low level on Bismarck, and Reaper needed to do it unsynced in like at least level 70 equipment to be able to beat it. Oh right, we have Decimate now. I expected to heal more from that. Hey Zamo, hope you're doing well. We were just trying to see if Bismarck was possible with Blue Mage. I don't think it is, but I would love to be proven wrong. But yeah, doing well besides that. How about you? It is quite strange that they've decided to stick to a warrior AoE not generating any resources until level 74. I think warrior is the only one who is like that nowadays. But it's not entirely like unique to warrior. Like Gunbreaker does not have a way to spend their resources on AoE until level 72. Sephra, are they soloing... wait, solo BM Bismarck? What do you mean by BM Bismarck? I should also reiterate that when I'm saying it's not possible, I'm saying it's not possible synced. So at level, was it 58? Not level 70. Blue Mage, that was what I was playing, yes. Synced as opposed to unsynced. But if people have done it synced, that's cool. Generally, people shorten Blue Mage to BLU, yes. Because that's what it does in the game. And that's also why I got a little confused. BM can also be shortened to Bad Manners. Which, in a solo kind of sense, would very likely imply that you're using some, like, maybe you're using some sort of gimmick to cheese the fight. You could call that Bad Manners, but it would be a weird way to name a thing. And also, it could also mean Black Mage. Or Beastmaster. Oh, 2-packs. That makes things a lot more complicated. I'm pretty happy I didn't spend very many of my cooldowns then. Oh, many of the mobs are actually really weak. Oh, I know Gigantic Pyro exactly. That normally you say BLU for Blue Mage and BLM for Black Mage. The thing is that if you start using like custom shorthands, like saying BM for either one, then you've thrown all the rules out the window. Then you don't know for sure which one is going to apply, right? So then we have to assume that there's a ton of options. One of them is a healer, so we focus on that one. And one of them apparently can stun. That's really fun. Gigantic Pyro says, do you use an MMORPG mouse with side buttons? Yes, I do. I use one with like the 12 button grid on the side. And I use the front 6 buttons to access 7 and all the way over to the plus. So like the right hand side of my hotbar is the mouse. An MMORPG mouse can help a lot if you'd rather not get too creative with your keybinds. But you don't need to have an MMORPG mouse to like be competitive, not at all. For me, I used an MMO mouse before I even, like, from the beginning, before I played Final Fantasy XIV, I already had an MMORPG mouse, an MMO mouse. So it didn't, like, it's not like I got into Final Fantasy XIV and was like, I need this. It was more, I already have it. For the most part, the control scheme that I used just translated perfectly into Final Fantasy XIV, so... That's not what he said.
In the name of the Emperor.
So there's a lot of ads that spawn. Spawn in this fight. That is scary. He can just stop me in my tracks when I'm using raw intuition. Who this is? This is Regular Van Hydrus, who uses a Final Fantasy VII style combat stance as opposed to the actual Dark Knight stance, but still uses a lot of Dark Knight attack animation, so he kind of just flips between them. It's quite funny. But he uses a giant greatsword gun. You can see when he runs, he awkwardly and every time after an attack, he shuffles back into the Dark Knight stance and then back into his special pose.
There is nowhere to run.
Can you not do that? Like, at least not while I'm using raw intuition. It's really annoying, you know?
In the name of the Emperor.
Ow.
In the name of the Emperor. In the name of the Emperor.
Yes, Ross says 5 buttons can be completely fine. It's also possible. It's mostly down to what you need personally. That is ultimately what matters the most. But if you see someone else use an MMO mouse and you think that would work well for you, then, you know, consider it for your sake.
Enough.
That might have seemed a little weird. In retrospect, I probably didn't need to waste my Berserk on Tomahawk, but it did kill the mob, which was ultimately my goal.
Can you withstand this? In the name of the Emperor!
Ow.
In the name of the Emperor!
Can you?
In the name of the Emperor!
I heard you. Relax, Hydrus. I got it.
There is nowhere to run.
Who do you think he's fighting for, everyone? The Emperor? Great, I thought as much.
Can you withstand this? In the name of the Emperor! Enough!
I wonder if I'll even be able to kill this one before it self-detonates. Oh, there it comes. Guess best I can do is just... Oh, that wasn't so bad. Rost says I tried very hard to like Monk, but it plays pretty much on rails. Most jobs in Final Fantasy XIV play with an extremely predictable rotation once you start to optimize. So a lot of jobs are ultimately going to feel like that when you start to master them, especially DPS jobs.
There is nowhere to run.
Wait. Which way were we going? I think this is the way. Normally you have a treasure chest to guide you if you're uncertain, but this dungeon doesn't drop any loot for some reason. Look, it's pre-cultured biomass. It hasn't been cultured yet. It hasn't been to enough on the internet. Gigantic Pyro says, which tank is best to start with? I heard Warrior Paladin is good for beginning. Both of them are very good to start with, both because they start at level 1 and also because both of their toolkits are considered the easier versions of tanking. The reason why that is, the way that they differ is that in the first many levels, Warrior is considered easier because it has better cooldowns, and that stays true for most of like for pretty much forever with Warrior. But in the first many levels, Paladin is considered easier because it has the easier attack rotation. Because it only has like 1-2-3 combos or an AoE 1-2 combo for the first many levels. And then they have like a damage buff, but given that you don't have anything to put in the damage buff, it makes it relatively obvious what you're supposed to do with it, right? Which means that your choice is between having Warrior, which will have a slightly easier time with like defensive cooldowns, and Paladin, which will have a slightly easier time with offensive cooldowns. It'll have a slightly easier time dealing with doing damage, so you can focus on your defensive cooldowns instead of sitting there managing your berserk windows. Because Warrior has this like builder spender rotation for the first 69 levels, which Paladin kind of doesn't have until like really high level. And the builder spender of the Paladin is a lot simpler because it's just do a 1-2-3 combo and then you can spend the resources that generated. So I would recommend considering that. Like, if you want to have slightly better defensive cooldowns, go with Warrior. If you're concerned that you'll get confused by focusing on the on the attacking part, then you could try Paladin. Both are good. That took a long time to kill. I sure hope there isn't another one of them. Hey Angel, hope you're doing well. And also hey Sassy Muffin. It is very sad with Hydras. Turns out to be to have a good heart, and then it's over. Wait, I ran the wrong way. Oops. I know what I'm doing. I need to like put down like a marker after every fight so I know which way is forward. I don't even know how I managed that. I guess it was just that I didn't... I just remembered I was just running around stuff like that looked like this. So that can't be forward. Zephyr says, what's the hardest solo you've done so far? In terms of actually like successful solos, I think that might have been either Orm Vale, Dusk Vigil, or Snowcloak. Actually, no. Castro Meridianum, because of the first boss. That is absolutely the hardest one that I succeeded in, notably. Sable says, do you recommend Astrologian for beginners? I don't recommend Astrologian as your first healer. I would recommend White Mage as your first healer. If you don't really like how White Mage plays, then you can try Scholar when you have like tried White Mage for a bit, so that you have like gotten the basics of healing down. But really, I don't recommend Astrologian as your first, because it is it has a huge focus on something that isn't healing, even at the very beginning, which can easily distract you. This is getting a little crowded. Just a little bit. Ross says, if I don't want this unrail feeling, what would you recommend? Technically, Warrior and Paladin work on like priority systems for tanks, but the thing is that their rotations can, when you play them enough, feel like they're obvious anyway, so it's just the same. For DPS jobs, Red Mage or Black Mage might be good if you don't want it to be too much on rails. Both of them have some randomness, and both of them have some freedom in how they do their rotation, which means they can like make some variance. Dancer also has that. Bard gives the impression that it has that, but the thing is, even though it has a lot of random elements, most of the rotation is predictable and somewhat set in stone. So the randomness is like in the background of it all. Weirdly, when you get to higher levels, Monk's rotation, even though you could spell it out exactly what it is at any point, because of how fast-paced it is, one tiny little thing getting in your way can completely alter how your rotation is going to play out for the remainder of a boss fight. So, you don't like, even Monk can feel like it's not on rails. So it's a little complicated to say that, because the reason why I'm saying most jobs are going to feel like they're on rails is because I don't feel like Monk is on rails, but if you feel like Monk is on rails, then most jobs in Final Fantasy XIV would feel like they're on rails in relation to how you feel it. So hard to say, really, at the end of the day. Yeah, you could say that. A healer would... Well, the thing is that if you're playing optimally, right? If you're playing a healer optimally, then you're not going to be using very many GCD heals, which means that your rotation is going to be glare, 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 glare. Oh dear, glare, 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 glare for the most part. Which means that that would be on rails by the simple fact that there are no other places to go. So I don't know. It's ultimately, what do you think is most fun to play? And if you think that one job doesn't feel fun to play in the rails that it has been given, then try something else. A lot of jobs play significantly differently as you get to higher levels. So that can also make a difference as you level up. I have a feeling this boss is overwhelming my self-healing here. Uh-oh. I should have used Holmgang a little later. In Fealty of Pink Emperor, cute lord. Small Emperor, small dragon. In all her glory. But yeah, it's really difficult to give advice on different jobs, specifically because how a job feels can be very different between players. There's also the part that I can say that, oh yeah, if you want to play Warrior, technically its rotation is a priority system, but in practice, in most situations, what's going to happen is that you're going to play it in a rather predictable way, like on rails. But you might never reach the point where you're playing it that, like, to that level. Maybe you never realize it is like that. So you might not have to concern yourself with this. Here we go again. Why did it angle like that? Oh, that switched off really quickly, huh? What? Huh? Weird. What do you mean, Angel? That it sometimes stops you from playing? Like stops you from playing Aetherochemical, or? Oh, well, I mean, I feel like Aetherochemical can be very exhausting to play at times. I could totally relate to that in a way. I'm guessing the boss switches mode after a set amount, like on certain HP thresholds. I was really hoping that I sidestepped the dot there. I was really hoping. I'm also specifically trying to hold back on using too many of my healing resources, because I know that I'm going to need it when the boss switches into the next phase, like into the army boy, and I need to use Holmgang, which is now. Perfect. Whew. That was a little scary. I thought it was too late on the Holmgang, but it worked. That's why I was like a little. Whew. I didn't actually expect that it would let me get away with that. Oh boy. It loops. That is going to be a problem. Like a massive problem, because I don't think Holmgang will be ready for another tree phase. Jesus says, what job feels the most different on different levels from its level 90 iteration? Oh. Well, pray for me. That's not enough. Or maybe it is? That got a little close. Why did the ballistics missile not kill me? Which job feels the most different on different levels from its level 90 iteration? Well, let's see. I think that the answer is going to be Black Mage, simply because Black Mage has a completely different rotation at level, like, below level 60, just as a starter. And then you combine that with the fact that its level 90 action is like a core GCD that it uses a lot. Like, Paradox is something that gives rise to entire, like, rotation tricks. Like, all those transpose lines, a significant amount of transpose lines are just, oh, this way you can use Paradox multiple times in quick succession, which is pretty good. Things like that. So I would say Black Mage, probably. Other jobs? What other jobs get a significant change as they, like, get, like, complete revamps of their rotation as they level up? Warrior gets a massive change with inner release. Paladins, like, as they level up, they get their, like, requiescent, their entire magic phase. But I don't know how big of a difference that makes. I feel like it's a massive thing with Black Mage, and most other jobs just don't hold a candle to that. Rapture on White Mage? I mean, Aflato's Misery is a pretty significant revamp of how the White Mage plays, because it changes from the Lily being like a flat-out DPS loss to use to being like not a loss and possibly a gain if you use it right. So just to be clear, the reason why I'm going for the Thaumaturge first is because I'm pretty sure the Thaumaturge clone has a petrification spell of some sort, and I'd rather not deal with that. I'm pretty sure. No, you don't get to cast Tornado. No tornadoes, only arrows. It's a Shapti. And can you come down? Pretty ironic that its attack is called Spell Sword, but it's using it like an axe, or maybe like a kinda short halberd as its weapon. And now it's using Death's Door, but it's not even using a door. Sephiroth says this section reminds me of the Vault of Glass from Destiny. I haven't played Destiny, so I wouldn't know, but maybe someone else in the chat can corroborate on that. I'm very interested to see how if we can beat the final boss here. Also, I just want to underline and highlight for a moment here that our current objective in this duty is defeat all opposition. That feels like that's a very brutal way to put it. Ten seconds. I needed to see how bad it was because I'm pretty sure I can just stun that. Or interrupt it. But I wanted to see how bad it was. If I remember correctly, once these clones are dead, we're presented with 3 Shabdi, and I'd rather have my burst for those. So I'll take it a little slow. Or maybe just 1. Nope, there's 3. Here they come. It's the Shabdi 3. Yes, use spells that I can dodge. That makes it way easier for me. Do it again. It's what we around these parts call a mistake. An avoidable attack, you say? Imagine if I dodged it. A whoopsie if you would. Yeah, indeed, Ymir, indeed. I do too. I love that we have our own memes. And our inside jokes. Stun! And now you're dead! Let's see, 1 wipe. I think that's pretty good so far. And we learned from the wipe. Oh, right. There's the phase 1. Are you both just going to be here? I mean, That's cool and all, but is that what we're doing?
Darkness shall consume light.
If you say so. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that, honestly. I don't think, now that I think about it, I don't think I've fought this fight in its reworked form, so this is going to be very difficult. Ah, donuts.
Know your place.
I'd rather not. Oh. Well, I'm learning. They have a lot of HP.
Chaos shall reign forevermore.
Your light shall burn no more.
Oh, okay. I think they're regularly like sharing their HP with each other, is that right? Or is it just that somehow I managed to deal an absurd amount of damage to La Brea?
Chaos shall reign forevermore.
Your light shall burn no more.
Oh yeah, look, he just like dropped down. That changes some things, I guess. I don't know if it's actually worth it to use my 1-2 combo for DPS reasons. Or my AoE combo, I mean. You have a lot of HP. You have a huge amount of HP. Why do you have so much HP? I disagree. I'm pretty sure, actually, according to what people have told me, that
Shall burn
Light is the winner on EU in terms of party finder, so I don't think chaos actually reigns forevermore. But I applaud the enthusiasm, La Habrea. Like, I appreciate it, but unfortunately, that's not how the world works. I really like that he's mainly using the spread marker, because I have a feeling that he's choosing between the line stack and the spread marker. And every time he chooses the spread marker, it just means that I win.
Chaos shall reign forevermore.
Something that I'm
Light shall burn no more.
mildly concerned about is when one of them dies, will the other one go into like one of those like the battle is about to end, kind of like sudden death enrages. So maybe I should make sure they die simultaneously. It's not going to be too hard to kill them simultaneously, since they like regularly check up on each other and share some HP, but still, I have gotten one, like, a good lead. So it might be significant to just consider it. And also, if you're wondering why I'm just sitting on pretty much all of my cooldowns, that's pretty much because I need them all if La Habrea suddenly decides that he's going to do the stack marker instead.
Chaos shall reign forevermore.
Your light shall burn no more.
Well, a fifth left. I feel like it determined there was a fourth left a while back. A little strange. We're getting close. A 10th left. Seems they prefer chaos data center over light. They're hoping to make their dreams a reality if they say it enough.
Chaos shall reign forevermore.
Your light shall burn no more.
Oh, I see. If you say so, Ige Yorm. Yorm. Ige Yorm. Huh. Impossible! They turned into a bigger thing! Who would have expected that? Is gravity better than Malefic on 2 targets? Yes, I'm pretty sure that's actually true on any version of gravity and any version of Malefic. Bigger Shadow Flare? How big is it? Oh. Let's see. I believe the only healer where AoE is not a gain on 2 is... Wait. Is that center save spot? No. It's in 2 sets. 2 Vuln stacks might be too hard to overcome. Yeah, the only, I believe it's White Mage that is the only one who doesn't, at max level notably, where AoE is not a gain on 2. We're going to go down because I can't survive all those Vuln stacks. But that was because I messed up right at the start of the fight. Let me give it another shot where I don't mess up and get 2 Vuln stacks right at the outset. But yeah, White Mage at max level, or like when they have Holy 3 and Glare 3. Holy 3 is 150 potency and Glare 3 I believe is 330, so Holy is only a DPS gain on 3+ targets. But for all other healers, AoE is a gain on 2. Right, let's give it another go. Where we don't get 2 Vuln stacks right at the start. See, that already makes it a lot easier when we don't have like a 33 or so damage increase for the boss. Another one? Oh man. Oh boy. Ow. Are you done with the stack markers, bro? We might not have the damage for this. Yeah, we don't really have the damage for this, so the next question is how much damage is this going to do, and does it do unique damage? Because if it does unique damage, then we might not be able to invuln it. If it doesn't, then we might be able to cheese this. I just would have had to not use my invuln on the stack marker earlier. Yeah, exactly, Matthew. Oh no, a DPS check. Yep. Nope. That cannot be done. It cannot be done. So, it did... First of all, it did like 9 damage, which is typical for like an enrage. The second thing is it did unique damage, and unique damage usually strikes through damage reduction, and when it is in the context of an enrage like this, it does not care that you're using an invuln, you still die. So it can't be done. I don't think we can beat this boss. I can give it one more try. I'll give it one more try to see if we can reach that part with an invuln, just to see if it is actually something you can use invuln for. If I can't, then that's it. If I can't reach it, because the thing is, I needed that invuln for the stack marker before. But I'll try. I'll give it one more go. Yeah, I would have to part out my defensive cooldowns a bit more. And I got a Vuln stack. That was really dumb. That was incredibly dumb. You know what? Just take me. I need to not have Vuln stacks, man. Why did I do that? Is this a good dungeon to do for anima weapon poetics? Is it so effective? And the order flipped. Okay, whatever. I didn't notice that he flipped that they flipped the order. I didn't even realize that they could do that. So I was too prepared for a specific order. I'm sorry about that. I need to make it. I need to get it as good as possible. Otherwise, there's no chance that I'm even getting to that intermission. And now I'm making some mistakes, and the boss is mixing up its mechanics. Very annoying. Dual star. I'm going to guess that the fire ones happen first, because they're closer together. All right. I wasn't paying attention to where, like, to their position, because I assumed it was just like a set order that they were going to resolve in. But now that I know that the boss can mix it up, I'm ready for it to be mixed up. Oh, that's so much damage. Can I recover from that? I don't know if I can. Actually, it doesn't matter because the intermission is happening now, so we made it. Now I just need to use my invuln at the correct time because the boss has like a huge wind up for the attack. So exactly when the snapshot happens, it becomes very important. For science! Ow. Ross says, people were thanking me because I queued for Royal City of Rabanastre. Yeah, so basically, most of the time when you queue for Alliance Raid Roulette, you will get Crystal Tower. But a lot of people don't actually want the Crystal Tower series. They're so fed up and tired of it that they would take anything else than that if they could. But because they're just queuing random, they need someone out of that picture to queue specifically for anything else to actually get that offering. So I guess that's why they appreciated and thanked you for queuing for that. Yep. Cannot be done. You cannot solo that. I'm not even sure you could do it with 2 people with the amount of damage I managed to do in the orb. You might need 3 for that DPS check. But I feel like I gave it a real solid try. I really did try my best to push it, but it can't be done. Invuln doesn't work. Defensive cooldowns don't work. I don't have enough damage. Can you solo Ethereal Aetherochemical Research Facility. Synced. No, not with a normal job, at least. With that said, I will be right back, and then we will continue. Oops. It's fine. Good night, Fila. Yeah, we tried. That is an unfortunate reality with DPS checks sometimes. That is usually the killer of being able to solo something, is if there's a DPS check that you cannot beat. Missy Ross says, I was super confused and thought it was an ironic thank you. Like, sometimes you get those from mentors and extremes. It could be an ironic thank you, but there's a few reasons why people might not mind Rabanastre right now. It's not the best, because it's just 10. But it's kinda not so bad when you realize that the Crystal Tower stuff only gives 6. And then also Rabanastre is probably more interesting. That's the best I can suggest in that regard. So I'm going to put up a poll so you all can decide where we're going next. So the first choice is that we're going in Sohr Khai, which was our original target, with a warrior presumably, or we go back into the research facility with Blue Mage. So you decide what you think would be more interesting. And I'll give it a moment. And you just vote for whichever one you think would be more interesting to see. All the gold saucer time paid off in there. What? I don't quite get that one. Arf. It's the sound you make when you land in a Aetherochemical Research Facility if you don't like it. Arf! Oh, the slice is right. Yeah, right, I get that. I feel like you have a lot more freedom to dodge the mechanic in the boss fight compared to Slice is right. In Slice is right, it feels mostly like... The thing is that with both the Slice is right and anyway the wind blows, to some degree, they're basically obfuscating complete randomness with something that looks like a boss mechanic. So ultimately, where you choose to stand, there are a few positions you can take for either one where it doesn't even matter what you change. Like, some people might say, oh, if he's already done a specific action, then you should switch to this one because then it's less likely he does it twice. Not really, as far as I know. Both of those gold saucer things, they're equally likely to do any combination. So they could just do like a specific mechanic 4 times in a row if they felt like it. So it gives the illusion of choice, you could say. But still, it would still give you a lot of experience and understanding with seeing like the towers getting cut and then falling. Terrible says, I think you can actually reliably dodge Slice is right. If you could reliably dodge the Slice is right, like if you actually can do that, then it would be possible for someone to repeatedly, consistently get full points on that, and I'm pretty sure you can't do that. Like, there is some element of randomness to it. I'm pretty sure, at least. But I wouldn't be able to prove it, because to prove it, we would need to either watch like thousands of Slice is right runs to see. It's random, but it doesn't lock you in place. I don't know, like, if you can actually move out of the way. I don't know. Does it work to move out of the way? Because there's also the possibility that it snapshots you so fast that it doesn't matter. I don't know. Anyway, the vote was close. Very close. But the prevailing one is Sohr Khai with a normal job. So we will continue to Sohr Khai. The main difference we would have observed with Blue Mage instead was that Blue Mage would be capable of pushing out slightly or significantly more damage in that intermission. But I don't even know if Blue Mage would be able to do it, despite all that. Yeah, that's fair enough, Terrible. I'm just saying that if it was possible to predict the Slice is right, then there would probably be a guide on YouTube to do that. And you would regularly see people do it perfectly every time. You would just see like an army of people always standing in the correct spot and then dodging perfectly seamlessly every time. And I'm pretty sure that isn't a thing. I haven't done like my due research on that to know for certain, but if it were possible, there would be data suggesting that that is correct. Right. Do we have everything in order? Maybe we should do a little repair just to be sure. It would be very awkward if something broke in the middle of the run. It might be possible to like know where they land, based on like predicting it. That is true. I wonder. But I would just imagine there would be a guide demonstrating exactly the perfect way to do it if it is possible to do it consistently. Right, so Sohr Khai, I don't even remember if it is or isn't possible, if there's like a specific boss where it would be clearly not possible. But let's see if we can. I don't think the final boss... I don't think the final boss has some sort of DPS check gimmick. Come for the solo stream, stay for the slices, right? Discussion. Also, apparently we can do these one at a time. Huh. That makes things easier. That reminds me, what was it last time on this last solo stream? What was it we discussed there? Was it inventory space? Don't worry about it, Terrible. We've talked about weirder things on solo stream. Don't even worry about it. I know they changed the final. I believe we've done the final boss on stream before, after the rework. But I don't think it has a DPS check. But yeah, don't worry about it. We talk about a lot of weird things on these streams. That is like the whole point. Like if I was streaming doing something extremely intense, then that might be a different story. Perhaps I don't have the time to discuss something completely unrelated, but we do here. So I really don't mind. I don't really want the fan over there to join in. Blade Extreme streams are pretty quiet. That is true, except that we talk complete nonsense. we just go completely crazy instead. Me and Sip discusses nonsense, and then Greensville comes in and just blurts out like complete lunacy. And now we have a perfect stream set up. You know what's really fun about these fans? They put down this, and that gives you this, which makes your GCD very fun. So yeah, if you're ever doing this dungeon with randoms, remember to step into the fan after you kill it. It gives you a big chunky damage boost. Make sure to do that. But you know, Terrible, you might be able to, like, just figure it, like, you might be able to figure this out for yourself. Like, if you do the slice is right enough, you might actually be able to come back with this and be like, no, actually, Kai, it's true, you can dodge it consistently, because I can. Although you said your latency is leaving something to be desired, so maybe that would be very difficult. But, I mean, that would be, like, even more proof, right? That you would be able to do it, no problem, on a less than perfect connection. Because I haven't been able to test the slice is right enough to be able to tell you whether it is or isn't possible. What even is a good gold saucer player? Who knows? Yeah, if you can see, like, exactly where the bamboo is gonna land, like, several seconds in advance, and you can literally see where it's going to land and you can just sidestep it, then it might be totally possible. But I do wonder whether there's, like, an element of RNG directly, like, injected into it to make sure that it isn't like that. Imi, are you getting the mounts with mock tomes, or are you getting them by going to the actual extremes? And here we are, first boss coming up. By doing the extremes, fair enough. I hope you get lucky with the drops. How about 3 ads? Isn't one of them is a warrior? Wait a minute, those are not very tanky ads. Why did I use Infuriate there? That was incredibly dumb. I just wrecked my resources completely. Congratulations. You didn't do anything. It's a spinning stick. Oh, it was a random cross AoE apparently. One of those is a healer. And one of them is ranged. That's not what I wanted. But that didn't do any damage. Do we have more ads, Moglin? Was that it? Was that the army? Is the rest of the match just me preventing you from dressing all of them? It is. Let me just push you slightly further out, and you as well. Oops. That was the wrong direction to push you. This is not a hard fight, is it? What? How were you in the circle? How? Can I stun you? I can. Why can I stun you? This fight is it has a lot of something. It says, is there enough time to get the mounts from tomes? Possibly. You'd need 30 per mount. So you probably can. It's just a matter of how much effort you want to put in. I believe there's 7, yes. But there's certainly some of them that might be more important to prioritize than others, like consider which ones you might be able to solo your way through, as opposed to those that you can't solo your way through, and like prioritize getting those first. I have a feeling that maybe this dungeon we should have considered having done at minimum item level. This is very, very easy. That is really difficult to know when we're going in. Because I think the reason it's so easy is because it's like weirdly balanced or something. Don't tempt fate. Smash cut to me on the final boss. Like, nope, can't do it. Tank Buster's too hard. Speaking of not tempting fate, no point in trying to greed so hard and then only getting one, like not even getting a single egg down. This tank buster's busting my tank. Wow, this is a very effective tank buster. It appears to be busting the tank. There's also the possibility that the Pegasus, the second boss, is going to be really hard because there's the walls that we're going to be losing as the fight progresses. Imagine having OGCD attacks, am I right? Wouldn't that be incredible? Could you imagine a tank with an OGCD attack? That'd be quite a wild upgrade. Like, for example, one where you like punch the enemy with your fist. No! Stun again! No breath wing for you! Denied! Take this! The main reason I'm not pulling more is because it's very easy to overpull if you don't know what the mobs do. I'm pretty confident that I can do this. Because none of the mobs in this pack are particularly threatening when you really think about it. It's very close, but for the most part, I can do it no problem, just cleaving them all. That's very effective for time save. We did it! We pulled technically 2 packs. Kinda? Like a little bit? No, you're not commenting too much, Emir. I think it's just people are busy with this and that. Come on then, Griffin. You join in the fun too. I'm sure it'll be fine. Boonk. Oh wow. Oh, very, very nice crit. A very nice crit. That I didn't even need. Looking at the time, it's possible people just went to like, maybe they went to get dinner, maybe they went to do their dailies, maybe they went to raid. I don't know. Burning bright. Wow. It was like an auto attack with a cast time. See, exactly, that's what I said. Aridel's here, just cooking. Hope you enjoy your food. Ah. Ow. I love surprise tank busters with no warning. They're the best. They're very easy to time your defensives for. Ah. Oh. Right. That was not smart. Oh, that side. So it's very important that we carefully... Actually, it's probably easier if I just do this. Just face the boss so that it can only accidentally beam wall that has already been broken. I had completely forgotten that that was what Burning Bright did, because it never really comes up as an issue. Burning Bright. Ah. And this fight is going to get real interesting when there's no more walls left. Emia says, I don't like this boss very much because I want it as a mount. This is a mount. I'm pretty sure you can get this as a mount, but just not from this dungeon. But it is a mount in the from somewhere. I think it's from... I think it might be a drop from Heaven on High. I think so. I think Sip has it. It's from the golden sacks from Palace of the Dead. Well, there we go. Thank you, Aridel. It looks like the amount of walls we have left is just barely going to cut it. We're just barely going to get by before the fight like starts becoming a problem. Oh, this side. Fair enough. One wall left. It's the one wall. It's the one wall. I think I got like 2 or 3 walls destroyed by accident with the Burning Bright at the start. So this is incredibly convenient. And we just barely had enough. Sohr Khai needs an electrician. Yeah, what happened? Why this? Ah, they're bringing out the big guns. They're bringing the children. Now you know they're serious. A horse person. Nice. Yeah, that works. I got really... I focused a little too heavily on one of them. Is that auto attacks? I'm pretty sure I don't have any, like, concentrated damage. Is all that damage difference really just auto attacks? Huh. A horse enjoyer, one might say. Holy Wyvern! Neutral words? I mean, I feel like you're pretty good. A horse person, that is neutral. Well, in that case, I think the problem more is that the thing with saying horse girl is a little inaccurate, isn't it? Surely there are no more neutral words to be found. Perhaps the archives are incomplete. It's a blizzard dragon. Just one. Alone. It's a lone blizzard dragon. The average thaumaturge. Ah, yes. The blizzard dragon. It's actually pretty strong. Oh, for some reason I thought the diminishing returns maybe had ended long ago. Guess not. Is this the last pack, or is there another one after this? Wait a minute, 17,000. Oh, that means we're supposed to be using these. The big potions. Nidhogg will spare thee no clemency. Oh, perfect! Then I don't have to bring a healer for that one. Nidhogg has my back. He'll use clemency on me. You said so, right, Heisvelger? A classic tank buster. Cleave the room. Indeed. What he said. Oh. Mildly dangerous there. Uh-oh. I expected that to do way more damage. Like it was, I think it would have been like 2.5 per hit if I didn't use a defensive cooldown. Not the most impressive Akmon on that. I also liked I liked the chaos of the original version of the boss fight. But I do feel like the more rigid nature of this version is pretty nice too. I'm coming over. Wait for me. Moving again. Don't worry about it. Can you on ice this. That would be pretty swell if you did. Thank you. He is very similar to Nidhogg, and the weird thing is that the first fight with Nidhogg has also been adjusted to be a little bit more similar to the final fight with Nidhogg. So, like, they've really underlined this is how it is to fight a dragon. But I do enjoy both versions of the fight. I do understand that I know a lot of people didn't like the old version of this fight because all the jumping around was just like really awkward. And because the fight was very focused on that, it feels like maybe it was like too focused on that in a way. So they've kind of replaced some of that with more modern mechanics in a way. I don't know. But I do feel like we've seen most of his mechanics by now. Right, so the... Oh, thank you. I was just about to say the ice. I don't believe they changed the Nabrialis fight, no. I don't think they did. They wouldn't have any reason to, because you can't actually use duty support there anyway. But I'm pretty sure they haven't changed it. And I have been in there recently. Holy storm. Oh, I guess I stepped into one of them a little too soon. Oh well. I have to say, Warrior is incredibly strong now that we have Raw Intuition and Equilibrium. Like, those two buttons on a boss fight really just cover everything in terms of, like, healing needs on most boss fights. Zephyr says, what is your favorite fight in terms of boss mechanics? That's difficult. A new song. I think that, like, that is like... I feel like a lot of boss fights are, like, with respect to, with respect to, like, the combination of mechanics. Kaisha says, I think this fight is not possible before Reyes Chan can destroy platforms. Well... They reworked the boss fight, so he no longer does that. So we just did it. Welcome, by the way. My favorite fight in terms of boss mechanics. I think it would actually be Seed of Sacrifice, like if we're talking like normal content. It has both a case of you have to actually memorize what the boss is going to do. It has a mechanic where you have to actually look at the boss to know what it's going to do next without being too punishing. It opens with one of those like, the healers have to like go full blast on healing. Kinds of mechanics right at the beginning, so that like now we're started, you need to use some cooldowns, and I think that's really like a really good way to start it. There's a mandatory tank limit break, and there's both Pyretic and Deep Freeze makes an appearance in the fight as well, which is really interesting. And then there's this whole thing where the boss fight actually has like 3 paths. I believe it's 3 paths because what he summons is semi-random. So you actually have to like react to what he decides to do, and what he decides to do actually dictates like a selection of mechanics. It's not just him going, well, this time I'm putting the stack markers on the tanks and spread markers on the healers. And the next time he goes opposite or something. No, it's like actually a whole line of mechanics that he goes down. And sometimes you don't get to see all of it, which I think is really interesting. Add to that the hilarious detail that I believe on the extreme version, if you use a DPS limit break, he just becomes invulnerable. He just uses Hallowed Ground as a response. Which I think is hilarious. Like a boss that just goes... Nope, when you try to use your big finisher move. But yeah, you can solo Sohr Khai, given that there's no longer the whole platform thing. That looks pretty nice. Right, so going down the list... I know Bales's Wall cannot be soloed, so the next one that is like MSQ relevant that we could try is Self Atoll. I think we'll do that as the next one. And I think the last one for the stream, because I see what the time is. We might go overtime to finish this, but that's fine. No Schlobby. Unfortunately not, because what he's going to do is he's just going to like, when a certain amount through the fight, he's going to be like, alright, I'm going to chain the healer. Right, no healer, then it goes on the tank instead, I guess. And then I'm just stuck, and then he uses Schlobby on me, and then I die. Schlobby. But yeah, you can solo Sohr Khai with a completely normal job if warrior counts as a normal job. I think I'm going to use super potions because the amount of hyper potions I have makes me a little averse to just using them aggressively. Warrior isn't a normal job. Dun dun dun. You heard it here first. Steve says, can you show me how to solo Seed of Sacrifice so I don't have to wait for Q? You cannot solo Seed of Sacrifice. You can't, because after the intermission, there is a mandatory tank limit break 3. And if you're alone, you don't have a limit. You don't have limit break. This is also the reason why Blue Mage has nothing to pick up. Can you invuln it? Well, fair enough. Does that mean you can solo it? I guess. That would mean you can solo it on normal, I guess. If you can fully heal after the initial doom thing, maybe a warrior could do it then. But he has many stack. Oh wait, no. He also has the LB2 mechanic later in the fight. Wouldn't you die from that? Because that gives you a physical vulnerability debuff, I believe. There's a checkpoint after intermission, that's true. But I'm pretty sure the LB2 mechanic just kills you anyway, right? And the reason why I'm saying it like that's like a deal breaker is because I don't think you're going to have the limit break for it. I don't think you'll have your invuln for it every time. Exactly, for the first one, but because the fight is going to take forever, because it's an 8-man encounter with a regular job, you would need quite a lot of time. Yeah, if you can invuln the thing just before the intermission, then you might be able to do it, but Blue Mage can't do it. And I think Blue Mage might be the only one who would be and also Blue Mage would have to do it like genuinely, so you'd need 8 people pretty much. And there's also the part that if you're like doing Seed of Sacrifice legitimately, and it's part of your MSQ, completing content with Blue Mage does not actually progress your MSQ. It doesn't count. So that wouldn't work either. And I'm pretty sure to solo it, you would need like at least a full set of crafted gear and be level 90. Emia says, doesn't Blue have a 90% damage reduction? They do, but if I remember correctly, the intermission thing in Seed of Sacrifice ignores damage reduction except for tank limit break or something weird like that. I think. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty confident that it's like you need tank limit break 3 to survive it normally. Exactly like Alex. Because, like, the thing is that both Seed of Sacrifice and Alexander are the type of mechanics where it's like, it hands your limit break 3 and goes, do the thing. Like, it hands your limit break 3 and goes, you know what to do. By the timing it gives it to you. You would have to wait for a queue, yeah, Steve. Are you... What data center are you on? I can't imagine the queue would be that long. Alright, Emir, take your time. How strange. They're getting a vulnerability debuff from something. From the rocks, I guess? I sure hope this boss doesn't repeatedly do the thing where it goes into the air. Like, I hope it's just a one-time thing, because otherwise this fight is going to be very long. Given how little HP it has lost before it did it, I have a feeling that this might get very annoying. Whee! Crap. I like to solo with a large group of friends. I mean, yeah, I'm totally alone. I did it all on my own with 7 friends. It's just you and me and this army that I brought. Don't worry about it. It's totally fair. Oh my goodness. Are you serious? I sure hope this isn't like a DPS check or something. I'm just going to beat it down slowly, because then I'll have my berserk for when when the boss comes down. Because clearly, this is going to require me to do that. To avoid getting too many of these intermissions. That are just like a massive waste of time. Halfway. We're halfway there. I have a little hope that maybe it doesn't have any more intermissions, given that the 2 intermissions it had were distinctly different. It might be like something specific. Like, it's like something that it does throughout the fight at specific intervals or something, and it's just weirdly early that the first one comes out. Because it needs to be even have a chance of doing it before the group just kills the boss these days. I don't think I've ever seen the version where it pulls out the 4 air stones. There you go, just the 2 intermissions. There's a secret phase where you drink tea together. It just floats up and just like, instead of spawning one of the turrets that can throw you up there, just like dangles like a teacup. Just pours you a cup. You go, drink that. We're having an intermission, I insist. Oh, one of them is casting buffs. That's a little concerning. Well, I guess you're dying first. Steve says, I think I had the longest Praetorium the other day. We were all talking and joking through it. It took an extra 10 minutes. Yeah, you know, back in the day, back when Ultima Weapon was also part of that, of Praetorium, it was pretty common to like, some people had like almost like entire stand-up routines prepared and ready to entertain the group. It was quite incredible in a way. But then people started to discover that there were like shenanigans you could do to force skip the cutscenes by just quitting the game. So like the people that did Praetorium enough to potentially do weird things like have a stand-up routine like this were more likely to just do the shenanigans. Like the game reset shenanigans. Yeah, exactly like in the shipwrights in WoW Classic. It's a siege Gobu, not to be confused with a regular one. You can see that it's actually a siege Gobu because if you look extremely closely, like it's very small, but there's like a name tag that says, "Hi, my name is Siege Gobu." It's funny how the bridge just comes down for me when I've killed them. Yeah, the interesting thing is that WoW Classic is so different compared to retail WoW because of like evolution in how MMOs are these days. Weirdly, many of the things that make WoW Classic good now are things that were, you know, abstracted out for one reason or another, removed for one reason or another, to make the game better. And presumably people actually liked it that way. You have to remember that World of Warcraft, I believe World of Warcraft's highest peak, might be remembering that wrong, but I'm pretty sure the highest peak World of Warcraft ever had for like an extended period of time was in Wrath of the Lich King. And technically, Wrath of the Lich King was when they truly dialed down on open world is complicated and it takes a long time to level up and all that. Like, that was when they got rid of all that and made the game approachable for a more casual player base. The fact that that was so successful is almost guaranteed to be part of the reason why retail WoW is very easy to play in the open world. Because that was what got them the player base. Like, that was what people wanted. And then it's just like, they've just kept moving in that direction, and at some point, the ease of play got maybe a little too much. Like, it got a little too much in a specific direction. Aradel says the idea of tea with the boss reminded me of Blue Mage's last boss giving up at the end. Isn't it? I thought it was that it like accidentally messes up its transformation, and then accidentally ends up in that situation. Or is that wrong? I can't remember ever like fighting the boss for long enough to see what he actually says. So I don't know. That is a pretty good example. It is very funny that the boss has like the opposite of a hard enrage. It has like a hard whatever, you win. Like if you just survive long enough, the boss will just stop. I think they should do that more. Like maybe have DPS checks and stuff throughout the fight so it doesn't incentivize people bringing 4 tanks and 4 healers or something like that. But just at the end, if you make it through all of the boss's mechanics, instead of going, alright, time's up, now you die, the boss just goes, I'm done. You win this one, I guess. That would be pretty funny. The boss starts having ad breaks. Now a word from our sponsor. Try new coffee biscuits from the Crystarium. Man, warrior's really good at healing. They call it the green tank for a reason. Come by Cthulhu bathwater. Try now. Hitch a ride on the Void Ark. Plan your holiday in the first. it'll lighten you up. It's like it's like traveling through time. Literally. On low. I mean, if I remember correctly, there's something really funny with this boss, because its tank buster is just that it boosts its own attack speed so much that you can hardly dodge its tank buster, which was the thing I just sidestepped like it was the easiest thing in the world. Time for my tank buster! Oh, I dodged it anyway. You tried your best. You almost had me, Totoli. Almost. Should probably have used the Swift Feather thing for this instead, though. That would probably have been more effective when you really think about it. So you didn't use 40 years setting up this mechanic only for me to sidestep it. Does this boss have other mechanics, or have we already seen it all? Dodged! Perfect. Do you do 3 this time? 2! Just 2! You know, I'm very excited to get to, like, see if we can solo the Stormblood dungeons. Because then we start to get more actions again. Like, particularly, I'm very interested to see how the enhanced Infuriate is going to change things. Much less interested in how Inner Release is going to make everything, like, very easy to manage. Time to do my really long mechanic again. I'll put like a circle AoE over here, and like a circle AoE over here. You'll never see it coming. And then I do a knockback. What? You're immune to knockbacks this time? Impossible! Ow. Yeah, I do think the duty support is like an extremely good addition for multiple reasons, actually. One of the reasons is that it helps a lot of players that are scared of trying out tanking or healing, because they don't want to have their first time be with like potentially a really mean player, and they want to try it like on their own in their own time. So I think duty support might very well have like led to a lot more tanks and healer mains. Like, just in general, in addition to your point, Steve. And that is also a very interesting suggestion, Necromancer. A Blue Mage deep dungeon where you just start with water cannon and then you need then you have to start like collecting spells as you go. We need more healer mains and we need more tank mains. Yesterday, I believe, oh whoops, I actually missed. Wasn't looking very carefully there. Aerodel and I saw, we had a full house, or whatever you'd call it, like we had bingo, because the entire list of roulettes were all tanks in need. Every single one. I don't think I've ever seen only healers in need, ever. And I absolutely have never seen only DPS in need. Yeah, we need more tanks and healers. But I totally understand why we do that, because the thing is, it's not the most appealing thing, because being a tank or a healer comes with a lot of responsibility, and a lot of people don't want that responsibility. Even if the amount of responsibility you're actually supposed to have is not nearly as much as what it sounds like. So it's not, I don't think it's about like, oh, there isn't enough interesting tanks to choose from. It's about you don't get, it's about the actual like role and not the jobs. Because the thing is, I remember when Gunbreaker came out, tanks had insanely long queues because everyone wanted to play Gunbreaker. But after a few weeks, people remembered that Gunbreaker is a tank, and then they all stopped playing it. And then things went back to normal. Steve says, on Sagittarius, we often get DPS in need. I mean, having DPS in need on one roulette every now and then is pretty common. It's especially common nowadays because of how some people will be farming these tombstones to get relics. But, I mean, like, a full line of DPS, and it's usually a few specific ones where you need DPS, I think. All DPS in need roulette is a myth. It is certainly a unicorn. Yeah, there is the argument that if you get like just the right kind of tank released, then it could lead to a lot more tanks because they specifically fall in love with the role because of it. But my main point is that the reason that we have way less tanks than we have, well, way less healers and tanks than we have DPS is not just because there's like 11 DPS jobs. It's more so because there's not anyone that want, like, there's a limited selection of people that actually want to play tank or healer. And I also think that the reason why people want to play tank, like, want or don't want to play tank or healer is for different reasons. Because the thing is, some of the tanks and healer mains are happy that their rotations are super simple. Some of them are furious that their rotations are super simple, like especially for the healers. So you can't satisfy everyone. Ha! I interrupt your spammable spell. Oh, you cast it again 2 seconds later. Fair enough. Well, Kaishia, I don't know what they could have done different to make it not like that, because part of the problem is that it's not because Sage isn't cool enough. Because I know a lot of people were like, whoa, lasers! It's more that Reaper has this special advantage of not being a healer. So it has less responsibility. It's a very easy job to play, at least at like a low to medium level of skill. And it's not a healer. And then also it has a scythe. Like it has a scythe, it has evil, void magic. It checks all the edgelord boxes, right? Sage doesn't really do that, and there's also the problem that it's very difficult to make a healer that would ever satisfy like the edgier players. Why would they want to play a healer and help people? I would also like chemist. I have thought about some ways to like put together like a chemist like job that is significantly different from the other healers. The thing is that it would probably be too different. Wow. He charged up that spell to cast Throw Bird at me. A job that specifically gives buffs to the party. That could work. It's a good idea. I think part of the problem is that well, it could work. I don't know if it would be a problem, actually. It would probably be fine if it has, like, a bunch of, like, mediocre, like, healing options for itself when it's out in the open world, because part of the problem would be that if it did any, like, solo duties at all, it would probably have damage output comparable to a healer, right? And healers can often coast by on that because they just have a lot of self-healing. Or they have a lot of healing, so they can just deal with it, no problem. Well, the thing is, I think, Steve, is that it's not that people feel that healers are too difficult to play, and it's not that they feel that necessarily that healers are too complicated to play. From what I know, it's like a combination of people don't want to play healer. Like, they just don't like healing because they are scared of messing up as a healer. Even if you had a button that just made everyone fully heal, that would simply lead to, like, that healer would obviously be overpowered. But it would also just cause healers to quit because it's boring. Like, that is the problem that I'm hearing from a lot of actual healer mains, is that they don't like that healers are so simple. Like, they want to have more of a rotation, which I think is very reasonable. Welcome back, Emir. How's the run going? Well, turns out this fight isn't very hard. I don't think the boss has anything. Its stack marker isn't even particularly threatening. It's just a big blob of HP at this point. But the thing is that there's a bunch of healer mains that are healer mains because they're happy that the job is very easy to like play in terms of rotation. Like there's a lot of people that are happy with that. And if you change that, then you lose all the healer mains that are healer mains because it's not too complicated on the offensive. On the other end, if you make healers any simpler than they already are, then a lot of other healer mains that are quite angry that the role is that easy would probably just stop, just give up. Kaisha says, if healers got a 1-2-3 combo and a burst window, it would feel better. Well, let's see, White Mage and Astrologian have burst windows, like real, actual burst windows. Scholar also has a burst window, they just don't have a 1-2-3 combo. And on that note, it's not like Summoner or Black Mage has a 1-2-3 combo, so I feel like it's intentional that casters don't have this. Like, Red Mage has a 1-2-3 combo, but it's a melee combo. You know? Like, it's like they were like, okay, so Red Mage jumps into melee range. What does it do in melee range? Well, it does a 1-2-3 combo because that's what you do in melee range. So I don't know if that's what healers need. I'm not sure what healers need because, as I said, we have a lot of different healer mains, and to satisfy all of them is impossible. Like it's just impossible. It's not something that we can actually do because they want different things. I also read like just a little bit of a surprise topic change maybe, but today I read someone that said wrote a hot take that they believe that Samurai's chitin was completely pointless. Which I've also argued that in some capacity Samurai's chitin was completely meaningless for the rotation. But the argument for that is that the reason why Samurai's chitin was meaningless for its rotation to some degree was specifically that it didn't like add any kind of decision making to your rotation. But I mean, if we start from that argument, right? If we start by saying an action that doesn't add any kind of thought process or thinking to your rotation, then it is pointless. Upheaval is pointless. Fell Cleave is mildly pointless. Like I could go on. So like it's saying that chitin was meaningless because it didn't add anything to your rotation, because you would use it in a specific way every time, isn't really a fair argument, because saying that a button is completely meaningless is just as good as any other argument. Like it's like what's a good one on that? What would be a good one? Why does Red Mage's job gauge have this imbalance mechanic where if you get too much of one of the elements, then you suddenly generate less of the other element? It's completely pointless. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It only comes up when you mess up. But it doesn't really matter. Why does it need to be there? And the only reason that it needs to be there is because the developer decided that it should be there. And it's the same with Chitin. They felt that Chitin was a good idea originally, and then they figured out that it wasn't. Now, on a different note, can you solo Sylph at all with a normal job while synced? Yes, it's not actually very hard. I'm almost inclined to say that it might be possible at minimum item level. Possibly. Maybe healers can get more OGCD damaging spells or abilities. Well, it would be abilities because that's the definition of an OGCD. But that could help. White Mage has one OGCD attack in Azai's. I don't think Astrologian has anything. Nope, that is a spell. The only, like, the closest you get to an OGCD for Astrologian is technically your cards, but those don't actually deal damage. Let's see, Lord of Crowns. Exactly, yeah, Lord of Crowns. Scholar has Energy Drain, which, by the way, I think actually Energy Drain is like a double-edged sword. It's quite funny. Because, check this out. Sage and Scholar's toolkits are extremely similar, like insanely similar. Sage's filler does 330 potency. Phlegma is a spell, not an OGCD. It is explicitly a GCD. Broil does 295. So that means that every time Sage has cast 3 times doses, they've actually just gotten a free energy drain in terms of like raw potency. And their Eucration doses also does a total of 750 potency, while Biolysis only does 700. So Biolysis is also weaker. But why would that be fair? There's 2 reasons why Scholar has to be weaker than Sage in this regard. And the first one is, well, Chain Stratagem. But you could argue that Chain Stratagem is supposed to like even out with Phlegma, which means that the only other reason why it is like this is because of Energy Drain existing. Sage cannot sacrifice its Adder Skull for damage, but Scholar can sacrifice its Ether Flow for damage. And the reason why I say it's quite funny and it's like a double-edged sword is because you may have noticed that Energy Drain has taken a lot more of like a backseat position in the Scholar toolkit. You get it at level 45 instead of getting it like way back in the day. You actually got Ether Flow super early. And Scholar for a while could actually only use its Ether Flow for offensive actions. It could use it on Bane or Energy Drain. And then eventually got things like Lustrate and Sacred Soil and Excogitation. But nowadays you get Energy Drain with Ether Flow, which has been moved to level 45 for balance. But actually, Energy Drain was deleted at the start of Shadowbringers. Like, they actually, on release of Shadowbringers, deleted Energy Drain from the Scholar toolkit, which there's a good reason for that. Because they changed Summoner a bit. In Shadowbringers, that was when they removed Ether Flow from Summoner and made it so that Energy Drain just gives you Ether Flow instead. So they wanted it to be that Summoner uses Energy Drain to get Ether Flow by extracting it from the enemy and then using it for attack, while Scholar gets its ether flow from itself or from like the environment to use to heal with. But then the Scholar player base was really annoyed that often they would find themselves in situations where ether flow was ready, they had ether flows to spare. It's a little confusing because it's called the same thing, but they had like ether flow stacks to spare. They didn't have anything to use it on. That felt really awkward, right? Because your choice was either just, I don't know, X-Cock the tank, drop down a Sacred Soil, Indomitability just in case anyone needs some healing, ether flow, and just move on. Or just click ether flow and just throw out your excess ether flows. The options there was they could make it so that you could have more than 3 ether flows. Like they could have done that as well, so that you could like stock up a little bit more. That wouldn't actually solve the problem. It would just mean that you could push back the problem a little bit. But the scholars complained that they didn't have anything to spend it on if they didn't need the ether flow, and they missed having energy drain to do that. So they just added it back in. Just, alright then, have ether flow then. You can have it if you really want it so bad. But it's really funny because if Scholar didn't have ether flow, didn't have ether flow, didn't have energy drain, I'm pretty confident that Broil would be like close to 330 potency, just for one. The reason why that is funny is because if you're trying to like optimize as a Scholar at like the highest levels of play, you're trying to like maximize your damage, then you have to like look at every single ether flow and go, do I need this? Could I use this for damage? I don't know if I need this. Maybe the other healer can deal with it. Maybe they can figure it out. And I can use some pet actions and I'll just use this for energy drain. Like you basically need to just look at every single, like if you want to be the maximum like top passing Scholar, you have to remove this, this, and this from your action bars, because you're going to be using it on energy drain, like you have to, which is silly. And in contrast, you have sages, like if you've played Sage at max level, there are times where you might need MP, but there's no one to heal. So you just like, you're just in the middle of a boss fight, you're at full HP, and you do this. I'll just throw it, I don't need it, I'll just heal myself, I guess. And the thing is, if Sage had energy drain, then they would do the exact same thing as Scholars are doing. Stockpiling them for the burst, and just blah, blah, blah. The only advantage that Sage would have in this regard is that since you're generating them gradually, you can throw 3 of them at the boss during raid buffs, and then you won't be like stuck with nothing because the next one comes in 20 seconds. Yeah, you can't throw 6 of them in quick succession, but you will not be stuck with nothing. You can like gradually choose whether you need to use them or not. So my point is that if Scholars had just not said anything, if they had just in Shadowbringers just been quiet about it and was like, well, now we can finally focus on using our ether flows for healing and only healing, that's pretty good, then they probably wouldn't have gotten energy drain back. And then they would have been balanced around that fact. Because what I'm getting at is that if Sage had energy drain, then doses wouldn't do 330 potency. So it's basically like Scholar shot itself in the foot. Okay, you get an ether flow dump, but now it's part of your toolkit, so now you have to use it. So it's actually a benefit to not have it. You could also say that, like, that could be a similar argument for White Mage, Or maybe something for Astrologian, like if all 4 healers had some sort of resource they needed to spend for some of their healing, but that resource could also be used for damage, what you would discover is the very interesting scenario where you would have like this chicken game of the 2 healers figuring out which one of us will have to save resources to actually save the group in case they need it. And it's actually pretty funny, because Shadowbringers had a different but similar issue. Also, hey Orion, I hope you're doing well. In Shadowbringers, healers worked slightly differently in one specific aspect. There's 2 things that might be relevant to consider. So Astrologian could switch between being a barrier healer and a pure healer. So Astrologian could match up with a Scholar or a White Mage and be perfectly fine. In fact, it would be really difficult with the card management and stuff, but you could have 2 Astrologians and one of them could go pure mode and one could go barrier mode. And it would be kinda fine. But that's the first thing. Astrologian could just... It could switch mode depending on who its co-healer was. Like, if you queued into random content a lot as a healer, it would be awkward to go in as a Scholar because sometimes your co-healer would be a Scholar. It might be awkward with a White Mage, but for the most part, White Mages, their toolkit kinda stacks with itself, so it's no big deal. But Astrologians could just go, okay, well, we can just make a pure and a barrier healer, no problem. But the reason why this is particularly important is because in Shadowbringers and before Shadowbringers, White Mage and Scholar had a 2.5 second cast time on their spammed attack. Like, holy. So that meant that if you needed to use Benediction or Tetragrammaton or Azize or something, you needed to either, like, use Dia, because it's instant, so you can, like I guess I'll just reapply my dot and do this thing. Or one of these Afflatus spells. But the thing is that in Shadowbringers, Afflatus Misery only did 3 times the damage of Glare, not 4, so it was actually a DPS loss. So if you wanted to do maximum damage as a White Mage, you had 2 OGCDs every 30 seconds. And technically you had to slide cast everywhere. Similarly, Scholar's Broil had a 2.5 second cast time, which meant that if you needed to weave anything, it had to be when you reapplied Biolysis, or you had to use Ruin 2, which of course was a DPS loss. But every time you used Ruin 2, you had, 2 OGCD slots. Every time you applied Biolysis, you had 2 OGCD slots. Now, you might be wondering why that even matters. But that's because Astrologian actually had a 1.5 second cast time on its spammed spell already. Like, all the other healers just got the Astrologian treatment in Endwalker. I think it's an @ symbol, Emir. But because of that, that meant that Astrologian had 1 OGCD slot after every single spell. Every time it cast a spell, it could weave something if it needed to. And the way this got represented in like an optimized Savage raid is that if both healers were optimizing and one of your healers was an Astrologian, then all healing, if possible, would have to be done by an Astrologian, unless it happened in the exact moment where the White Mage or Scholar had 2 OGCDs anyway. And that might be similar to how a scholar in Endwalker, when they're trying to maximize their damage, will be like awkwardly looking at their co-healer like, do I need to save ether flow? Can you deal with it? Because I don't want to. In a similar way, because in Shadowbringers, Scholar lost damage by having to respond to damage taken, ironically, and White Mage lost damage by having to respond to stuff. And the thing is, it's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous, because what we're looking at is in Shadowbringers, you had a White Mage, remember, a healer, going, my raid needs healing. Should I heal them or should I keep attacking? Because they couldn't heal them in an efficient way. And that is kind of a problem we still have today. It's like the most hilarious incarnation of the of optimization. Like I can't even begin to explain that we've reached a point of optimization in Final Fantasy XIV, and we've been there for a while, where healers are going, if I don't heal, I can do more damage. And tanks stack stats to maximize their damage and don't care about reducing their damage taken because they want to maximize damage. Kaisha says, I love co-healing with scholars because I know we can do similar damage while I can keep the party alive solo. As a sage, that is a really weird perspective. I think nearly everyone I've ever met that plays sage or scholar hates the opposite because it messes with their shields. But I could imagine why the sage wouldn't mind the scholar. I've talked about this in one of my 10 mechanics in Final Fantasy XIV videos, where I demonstrate that Eucration prognosis is overridden by bigger Eucration prognosis and by soccer, and Adlocurium is overridden by bigger Adlocurium. It also overrides soccer. But Eucration diagnosis overrides Eucration prognosis and Adlocurium and soccer and refuses to leave. Like, you can put the flimsiest little Eucration diagnosis on someone, then the scholar comes over, uses recitation and then Adlocurium on the same target, and it will not work. Because the Eucration diagnosis takes priority, and that's really annoying when the scholar has things like deployment tactics, right? Steve says, Scholar and Sage needs an I'm really dumb tutorial? Like, because it's really difficult? Or it's really weird? The thing that is quite interesting is that Sage technically has a tutorial. Reaper also has a tutorial. I'm pretty sure Dancer and Gunbreaker didn't get a tutorial, and if I remember correctly, Samurai just flat out goes, here's your job crystal, figure it out. Your next quest is a boss fight. Or something to that effect. The thing that is somewhat different between barrier healers and pure healers is, surprisingly, because you'd think that the pure healers, you know, the ones that are quite region focused, you know, heal over time stuff, would want to like maintain a heal over time effect on the tank at all times and keep them at like safe HP levels. But the thing is that in reality, when you're playing White Mages or Astrologians like peak performance, you use the fact that pure healers heal a insane amount in like an instant. Just, I need to heal you. Boom, done. And that's something that pure healers can do quite freely. That's not something that barrier healers can do very well. And because of that, barrier healers weirdly rely on heal over time to make sure that the tank is already like always kind of full. Because if the tank drops extremely low, it will cost you everything to save them. And it can be difficult to like get to that point. So if you're used to playing a pure healer and kinda just ignoring the tank until they're in danger, that's not going to work with a barrier healer. The instant the tank is missing HP, barrier healer checks in and goes, puts down a dome shield, or uses Kera Holy, or applies a heal over time effect or something, so that you can push back in the other direction. Because if you let the tank drop too low, you can't save them. Then the tank has to do it. Pepsis is underappreciated. Pepsis is really good under the right circumstances. I think the reason why Pepsis is underappreciated, perhaps, is because it costs a GCD. Because you need to use your creation prognosis or your creation diagnosis to even use it. But if I'm in a situation where my party is in huge danger and I'm playing Sage, if I'm running low on cooldowns, one of the tricks that I'll typically use to like stabilize the group is I'll use Eucratian Prognosis into Pepsis and then another Eucratian Prognosis. If I'm really, really scared, I'll go, and I don't have Noma available, then I'll use Eucratian Prognosis into Pepsis, then Zoe into another Eucratian Prognosis to make the shield and the healing a bit bigger, and it looks like this. And that is of course a fake double weave, because you can't double weave after Eucratian Prognosis, so that clip the GCD. But if you need to do that, you need to do that. But Pepsis is incredibly efficient, like extremely efficient. It makes your Eucratian Prognosis into a 450 instant AoE heal with no cast time, which is I would say it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's okay, right? It's pretty good. And Plenary Indulgence with Afflatus Rapture is insane on White Mage as well. Like, that is 600, which is possibly the reason why Pepsis is underappreciated, because I would need a Lily to demonstrate that. Imagine having a button to... What requires 2 GCDs? Pepsis requires just 1. It's an OGCD. You just go Eucratian Prognosis into Pepsis. And then you could cast Doses if you want to. It's just the combo that I demonstrate requires 2 GCDs. You don't have to reapply Eucratian Prognosis, but if you need it, then do it. But yeah, White Mage can do this and this, and that's 600 potency. You just need to use 1 resource. Meanwhile, and also that resource you use is actually not really DPS loss. Meanwhile, to just get 450 potency, Sage has to do this to get 450. And that's a GCD that you didn't want to use if you could help it. Yeah, the thing is, what I'm getting at, where you can't double weave after your creation prognosis, is because its cast time, or its GCD, is 1.5 seconds. And because of the animation lock of using your creation prognosis, you only have time to weave one thing. So you can't both do Pepsis and Zoe without a loss. Like, if you really wanted to optimize it, you could do like like this. I don't have a target. I messed that one up. Let me get back to you on that. Classic me, isn't it? But what you could do is you do your creation prognosis into Pepsis, and then you use doses to find an opportunity to use Zoe, and then you can do your creation prognosis again. If you have the time, that way you're not clipping your GCD. But you have to do it in that order, and the reason why you have to do Pepsis really quickly is because if your group is actively taking damage and in danger, so you're using Pepsis, then you don't have time to wait because your shields are going to get eaten by the damage. So you have to do like that. You could do that if you're safe enough to do that. But that still costs you 2 GCDs of damage. Like, you might think, well, it's just 1 GCD of using your creation prognosis, right? Or 2 of them. It's not so bad. The reason why it is a problem is because that is actually a DPS loss of more than a full Flemmer. You know, your 40-second cooldown, you just lost one of those because you used your creation prognosis twice. And that circles back to this whole thing I was talking about with, isn't it funny that healers whose primary purpose is to keep the group alive look at their toolkit and go, how can I do this and not cast healing? Like, can I avoid having to cast any healing spells? Like, can I just avoid that? And it's never good to miss a Flemmer, indeed. You don't want that. Anyway, Kaisha says, a quick question. I always wonder, is Eucrasia GCD? It is a GCD. So, simply put, unless the action says so, and I don't believe there are any that do anymore, weapon skills and spells, and you can see it right under its name, it says Eucrasia spell, are all GCDs. All of them. And if it is a GCD, then either the recast time is its like its GCD, or it is its cooldown. It gets a little weird when the recast time is its cooldown, because, for example, Eucrasia has like a 4-line blurb explaining that it's actually that the 1 second is its GCD. Flemmer, on the other hand, just says that the recast time isn't affected by speed. So that it's kind of implying that it's the base GCD. But yeah, Eucrasia is a GCD and it's a spell, but the weird thing with Eucrasia is that it has a 1 second cooldown, which means that when you use Eucrasia, you get the animation lock of half a second plus 2 times your 2 times your latency, and then you can do something a full 1 second later. The key here is that because Eucrasia's GCD is 1 second, you cannot weave anything after Eucrasia. The abilities that the spells that Eucrasia affects are also spells, and they do not get affected by spell speed, and their GCD is 1.5 seconds. If you've ever wondered why Sage doesn't like speed that much, it's both because of Flemmer, which isn't really affected by speed in any beneficial way, and the fact that some of your spells aren't affected either, just flat out not affected. Kaisha says, what's your thoughts if Eucrasia is an ability? I don't think it would help anyone. I don't think it would change very much. Because the thing is, if Eucrasia was an ability, they would just make Eucrasian diagnosis, prognosis, and Eucrasian doses have a GCD of 2.5 seconds. They would just make them normal. So it would just mean that Sage would have to weave more In my opinion, I think that's what would happen. So I don't think it would add very much. I think it's fine as it is. But on the subject of that, I think the reason why Eucrasia is a spell is actually like a result of something we used to have. Because before Dark Knight's rework, so before Shadowbringers, you might recognize that they have this effect on TBN called Dark Arts. Before Shadowbringers, Dark Knights had an ability called Dark Arts, which made your next action that was affected by Dark Arts, which is very specific yet extremely broad, do something. Usually it was does slightly more damage and something. For example, your 1, 2, 3 combos, notably your 2 and 3 combos, got like a flat potency gain, like just add extra potency onto it. So you could do Dark Arts into Siphon Strike, and then it did slightly more damage, and you could use Dark Arts into Soul Eater, and it do slightly more damage, and it was the primary way Dark Knights actually spent their MP. This starts to get awkward when Carve and Spit, which is an ability, and I believe it was also an ability back then, had an interaction with Dark Arts, which meant that the only way you could actually use Dark Arts on Carve and Spit would either be if you used Dark Arts followed by a weapon skill or spell that didn't have a Dark Arts interaction, and then used Carve and Spit if your latency didn't allow you to double weave, notably. So where I'm getting with that is that I think the reason they made Eucrasia on the GCD was because they didn't like how Dark Knight played when it had an OGCD that directly interacted with their next GCD. James says, I prefer just keeping my dark side gauge up based on what I'm hearing. Dark Knight was a lot more complicated back in the day. The thing is, in my opinion, Dark Knight was more interesting back then, but the problem is that Dark Arts, what made Dark Arts interesting is comparable to Kaiten on Samurai, actually. Because there were a select few actions that you always used Dark Arts on, such as Carve and Spit, which meant that there wasn't really any thought process to it. When you were bursting, you literally just clicked Dark Arts if you didn't have Dark Arts. Like, you would literally go 1, Dark Arts 2, Dark Arts 3, Dark Arts Carve and Spit, 1, Dark Arts 2, Dark Arts, until you didn't have any more MP, hypothetically. And the reason why the reason why Dark Knight was more interesting back then is because, see, I said Dark Arts made it so some actions like did more damage, and then a thing. They had defensive options that interacted with Dark Arts. Like, if I remember correctly, Dark Mind, I think Dark Mind used to be 15%, but if you used Dark Arts Dark Mind, it was 30%. So like it doubled its value if you used Dark Arts on it. But why would you use Dark Arts on it? That's a DPS loss. Dark Knight used to have an ability called Dark Passenger. I believe it was an ability. It might have been a GCD. It was called Dark Passenger. What it did was it shot out like a frontal cone AoE. But when you used Dark Arts on Dark Passenger, it didn't make it do more damage, if I remember correctly. It just made it blind the enemies that you hit, because back then it was actually not uncommon for tanks to actually blind enemies. To dodge more and stuff like that, like randomness in your tanking. But why would you do that when that didn't give you more damage? In fact, you needed that MP, if you were AoEing anyway, you needed that MP to spam Unleash, which cost MP. Or use it with Abyssal Drain, So what I'm getting at is what made Dark Knight's Dark Arts mechanic before Shadowbringers interesting was that it could be used on both offense and defense. But if Dark Knight worked like that now, then every time the Dark Knight used Dark Arts on something defensive, it would be comparable to a Paladin having the audacity to cast Clemency. Right? So, when they reworked Dark Knight, they mostly separated the offense from the defense. The only thing they kept around is that when you use TBN and it breaks successfully, you get like refunded the MP, which means that it requires you to use TBN correctly, but if you do, it doesn't cost you anything. So, what I'm trying to say is that Dark Knight was more interesting back in the day, but that kind of Dark Knight wouldn't work now. It just wouldn't work. In my opinion. That's my opinion, of course. I don't know for sure, but I think it wouldn't work. And if you reintroduce those mechanics Dark Knight used to have, it would all just be... It would be like, imagine if Samurai had Kaiten again, but instead of Kaiten spending your Kenki gauge, it just costs 2000 MP. So you just go Kaiten, brap, Kaiten, brap, Kaiten, brap, repeatedly. A little awkward, right? Because that was the funny thing with Dark Knight back then, was that in Stormblood, they greatly increased the amount of MP Dark Knight had to work with, the amount of Dark Arts they could use, and the Dark Arts animation was quite elaborate. So it wasn't quite that animation, but I'm just saying, imagine if Dark Knights did this every GCD for 20 seconds. Like just, choop, hard slash, choop, siphon strike, choop, soul leader. Like, it's not like they're very different. Like nowadays they just go, oh, and a slash, and a slash, and a slash. So it's not like it's that different, but it just doesn't look as silly in a way. And that is true, James. Like, it's good to talk about jobs. A huge part of why I make those videos, like the stats are boring, or is the 2-minute burst a problem, this and that, why this stat is bad, isn't to like bash on the game and say everything is wrong. It's more to like induce discussion. What do people think? Is it okay that it is this way? Would it be better if it was a different way? Like, for example, with the stats, I heard a lot of good arguments that if the stats were more interesting, we wouldn't interact with the game any different. It would just suck more to have bad gear. Which is a good argument. And if the stats were more interesting, then it would be harder to balance. So we're trading game balance, and now the jobs suck in bad gear. Like, they feel terrible to play because they're lacking the stats that make them interesting. We're trading that for not that. Like, we're trading losing our good, very close and tightly knit balance for basically nothing. Which is a good argument, but I think it's an argument that needs to be said. Why are the stats in Final Fantasy XIV boring? Because we wouldn't play it differently if they weren't. Now, we tried Bismarck, couldn't do it, not even Blue Mage. It might be possible synced, I don't think it is, but it was really overwhelming when I tried, to the point where I don't think it can be done. for it to be doable, you need to be able to beat the 2 serpents in the intermission, which is going to be really hard and require a lot of kiting, I think. Then we tried Aetherochemical Research Facility, aka ARF, and discovered that the final boss has a DPS check that you cannot beat and cannot be blocked by invuln and cannot be blocked by defensive cooldowns. So also no dice, but we tried. Maybe Blue Mage can, but you need to have like 3 times the DPS of a tank to be able to do it. Which I think is like, I know Blue Mage is strong, but maybe that's pushing it a bit. Then we did Sohr Khai, which yes, you can solo. In fact, it was quite easy. Maybe it can be done at minimum item level. Maybe. Which is a pretty big ask, because you would lose 70 item levels. Then we did Self-Atoll, which was also surprisingly easy. So maybe on minimum item level, that's a 60 item level difference. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I think that was a pretty good showing. So next time, I think we will start by looking at if there's any other level 60 dungeons we might be able to do, or whether we should just jump on to Stormblood. And I think we'll vote about it on the next stream. With that said, if you enjoyed hanging out in this stream, enjoyed the people that you met in the stream, remember that the YouTube channel has a community server on Discord that you can join. There you will find the people that you've seen in the chat, hopefully. You will also find me, and you will also find a weekly schedule where you can see what's coming up on the channel up to a week in advance. And you will also find the announcement channel where I post. That is pretty much where I post first whenever there is a new video or a new stream planned. It usually appears there first before anywhere else. And you can sign up to grab a specific role so that I will give you a notification, a little tag whenever I post something if you like, which likely is more responsive than the YouTube bell, although it helps me a lot if you press that one as well. Right, and if you did enjoy the stream, specifically this stream, it helps me a lot if you like the stream, like in the YouTube thing. Might be down here, over there, up there, I don't know, it could be like circling the stream window or something, but it helps me a lot if you give it a thumbs up. So thank you in advance. It tells the YouTube algorithm that it's a good stream, and they should share it with other people and say, look, this man made a good stream. And yeah, indeed, the Discord server has cookies and candy. Just take my word for it. I don't know how to send you any. And speaking of, someone asked earlier in the stream, what is your favorite boss mechanic? Or rather, what is your favorite fight based on the boss mechanics? Tomorrow, we have a video premiere on the channel where I have a video where I go over some of the most common boss mechanics and how to deal with them in the most effective way. So I hope you'll find that helpful or interesting. Maybe you'll discover that, oh, I usually deal with this mechanic in a completely different way. I didn't think about that. Or maybe you decide that I did it in a weird way. And you share your thoughts on it. Or maybe you feel I forgot a mechanic. Yeah, I hope to see you then. With that said, thank you all so much for watching, and good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye!